All right.
Hello.
Time for another Vertigo Voices.
Here again.
I'm Colby.
I'm Sophia.
And if you can hear in my voice how fucking frustrated I am, aside from the fact that we're doing a Snyder Cut episode, spoiler, just had a rough morning of this stupid audio program. So, speaking of audio, though, I have a new theme song I want to try out.
Oh, do tell. Do share.
I've watched this video about 100 times over the last couple days, so I promise I'll get through it without laughing this time. 15 seconds long. This is from a TikTok user named, I think, Tom Cardy. Yeah, Tom Cardy. So, okay, ready?
You're a cunt.
And that's it.
I love it. I think it speaks so much to the spirit of what we're about on Vertigo Voices.
I have sent that goddamn video to everyone that I know. And every time I watch it, I can start laughing about halfway through. And like, I sent it to Bear. He texted me back that he spit out his coffee, and that he said that his favorite part of the video is that even after, like, it still goes for a couple seconds, so that you know that, oh no, they didn't get cut off. Like, that's just all this is. It's just, you're a cunt. That's it.
Beautiful, beautiful sentiment.
I'm, of course, using that in the British vernacular and not the American.
Right.
So, yeah.
Much affection.
All right. So, yeah, news time. We got a few news things to get through, as well as some rare apologies by me. Some mistakes that were made.
Do tell.
We'll get into it. I rarely make mistakes. So when I do, I feel like I need to acknowledge it. But first thing, we got some news. New Suicide Squad trailer.
Yay.
Which by now everyone's seen a million times. It looks fucking awesome. It looks like gorgeous Suicide Squad mayhem. Perfect melding of James Gunn and John Ostrander and Kim Yale. Always have to give her credit. And yeah, it just looks fucking awesome. Go watch that trailer. It's
if you haven't, yeah.
Out everywhere now. It was completely different than the last Suicide Squad movie. Speaking of that, I just mentioned this before we started recording. Because the world is terrible, every place that trailer has been posted has just been roasted with comments from Snyder fans saying #restore the Snyderverse, instead of just appreciating this beautiful thing that we're given.
Right. This great golden nugget of goodness that awaits us, that will, again, bring spirit and irreverence, the right kind of irreverence, to that particular group of characters. Just let it be what it is, folks. Just absorb the beauty of the present moment.
Yeah. It's just fanboys being fanboys.
Cunts.
Yeah.
In the American
They
vernacular.
are cunts. So corrections. Here's I'm gonna have to eat my humble pie and explain where I was incorrect. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about, what's his name? Stephen Fry playing Gilbert.
Yes.
And I couldn't remember who Gilbert was modeled after. It's G.K. Chesterton. If you look up a picture of G.K. Chesterton, that's what Gilbert looks like. And the other thing, I also commented on Teddy Roosevelt in an episode of Young Indiana Jones. He was played by James Gammon.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. And James Gammon's been in a million things. You'd know him if you saw him. But anyway, there we go. I was incorrect on both of those points. And also, I brought up last episode, a bit of a running gag, if you will, because I'm a rascal. Taggart. The TV show Taggart. And I incorrectly said that Edward Woodward starred in Taggart, although I did catch myself. I just didn't know what I was thinking of. Like, 3 days later, it hit me like a fucking sledgehammer to the head. Callan. The show I was thinking of is called Callan.
Which I have not watched yet. And like I texted you, it took me a hot minute to realize that, hey, that's Sergeant Howie. And then I got really excited.
From The Wicker Man.
Yes.
Which, it just pains me in my fucking soul that whenever I say The Wicker Man, I then have to say, no, the original.
A good one.
I've had this conversation about 100 times of like, oh yeah, have you ever seen The Wicker Man? No, the original. Yeah, it was a remake. No, Nicolas Cage isn't in it. Yeah, no, the other one's good.
If it wasn't for that one, we wouldn't have the glorious mishmash of disaster that is the Nicolas Cage one.
Jesus God almighty. Talk about just having such a huge target to hit. I mean, folk horror, outsider, stranger in a strange land, all those themes that are just really easy to nail. And having just the biggest target in the world and missing it so fucking perfectly.
Still. It's one of those movies that when you watch it with the idea that I'm going to come here and laugh, it's a lot better. Yeah. But the first time you see it, it is kind of just like watching a clown car pileup.
Speaking of a clown car pileup,
all right.
We are now going to talk about the Snyder Cut. I have other news, but I'm just going to wait till next week because I feel like that episode will need more padding than this one. It's fucking 4-hour long movie. There's plenty to talk about. Should I do comments first or after?
Let's do comments first.
I put it out into the world. What did you think of the Snyder Cut? And I got quite a few responses, ranging from one word to like entire paragraphs. Actually, I think we should talk about it a little bit. Otherwise, some of these are going to need context and comments about specific things that maybe we're already going to cover.
Yes.
The first thing, though, is I wanted to bring up my tenuous Vertigo connection to Justice League, because I promised I would find some fucking way to connect this movie to Vertigo comics. So I've actually got more than one tenuous Vertigo connection. The first thing is that like half these characters were in Sandman.
Okay.
In the first volume, which we've already covered on the show, go back and listen, Dream goes to the Justice League and gets their help. He talks to Scott Free and Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, spoilers, is in this stupid fucking movie. In probably some of the worst scenes put back into it, or newly filmed, I guess. Anyway, regardless, so Martian Manhunter's in that, and then Scott Free has his whole dreams of apocalypse in there, and you see Granny Goodness and all that. The fuck was that noise?
Messages.
Useless friend. Scott Free has a dream about apocalypse and Granny Goodness, both of which are seen in the Snyder Cut. So yeah, there you go. This is a perfect adaptation of the first volume of Sandman. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. Okay, my other tenuous Vertigo connection. There's a 2004 graphic novel called It's a Bird by Stephen T. Siegel with art by Teddy Christensen. And this is an autobiographical story of Stephen Siegel trying to write a Superman comic.
Oh, you brought that up.
Yeah. And I feel like anyone who wants to adapt Superman needs to read this comic. And it's very clear that Zack Snyder's probably never even fucking heard of this comic. Because it's Stephen T. Siegel's struggle with trying to relate to a god.
Okay.
And it's a really interesting take on Superman and the perception of Superman. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great, and we'll have to read it one of these days. But, so yeah, there you go. Superman has 2 Vertigo stories that are very... Superman was also in Sandman as well.
That's right.
Because he shows up at the wake.
Okay.
And his, did you ever hear about that? That scene had to be censored by Vertigo.
Why?
The artist on the wake was Michael Zulli. And the way it was drawn, these are like the dream versions of these characters. So Neil Gaiman said that Batman is kind of inhuman. Like he looks normal, and then his cape like flows down and he looks like a shadow creature or something. Mm-hmm. And he said that Superman is dressed like Clark Kent, but in the way he's standing, you can see like his cape hanging out of the back, almost like he's constantly self-conscious, like he's dreaming about like being naked in school or whatever, like being Clark Kent, but oh no, Superman's hiding or peeking out. And he said that DC didn't like that. They felt he was being disrespectful to the character. So the scene is actually cropped so you can't see below their waists.
Oh. Okay. I thought you were gonna say something like, the artist drew a penis somewhere for us to find.
Yeah, so Superman's just jacking off. He's just there jacking off, talking about how he likes killing people.
At a wake.
Yeah, exactly.
As drawn by Zack Snyder. Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, so there you go. This is a Vertigo adaptation.
Right. There's your very, very tenuous connections.
Yeah, maybe even more so than the Dreamstone showing up in Wonder Woman. Who's to say?
With the way this universe is supposed to come together in the timeline, I would accept it.
Okay, so it's time to actually talk about the fucking movie. I mentioned before, I'm just dreading this. I'm dreading about talking about this stupid thing because it's like omnipresent. It's always been there. Since before this movie came out, there's been talking or discussion about this. And it's always bugged me. Just because this is how movies are made. Things change, things evolve, people get fired, people get rehired, whatever. But to think that this is somehow some sort of pure what's the word? Calf?
Unadulterated?
No. Unleavened bread? No. A biblical thing. Unblemished calf, maybe?
Yeah, I think you're close. You're getting warm.
Is that what they call Jesus?
The unblemished calf? The unblemished lamb?
So people have been treating this... I'm going to cut out all of my just frantic Googling trying to find the correct phrase I was looking for. People have been treating this like it's some perfect creature, when really it's just a fucking movie. It's just, it's just a fucking movie without any restraint. And if the 2005 King Kong film showed us anything, it's that filmmakers need restraint.
You need someone there to be like, whoa, Nelly.
Everyone needs someone to say no every once in a while.
Right.
Again, 2005 King Kong proves that. This proves it probably better than that. Because
in a big way.
This isn't a movie. This is a fucking, I don't know, this is an event. This is a, once in a lifetime. There's no way that this would work as a film. Mm-hmm. It's just too big. It's too everything.
Right.
So I completely understand why a studio saw this, and not even this version, because the version that they would have seen would be a little bit shorter, and said, this is fucking dumb. Don't do that. Pull it back, you goddamn idiot.
Right. And there's this idea that, I'll just start off by saying, is this a better version than the 2017 theatrical cut? In my opinion, yes. But folks, that is still not saying much.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on that for quite a while, and I think my answer is that they're almost exactly even.
Oh, really?
Because there's just as much messy bullshit in this as there was in that one, except this is 4 hours long. For every issue I had with that one, CGI Superman face, that looks dumb, or the color grading isn't great, or that joke didn't land. There's just as many issues I have with this, if not more, because it's 4 fucking hours long.
Right. Yeah. There's moments in the Snyder Cut that I genuinely liked. I know that if you read my social media posts, and you and I have put skewers in this movie before it even came out. But in the sake of fairness, there were things in the Snyder Cut that I appreciated. Unfortunately, it's totally bogged down with the film's runtime, and I don't think Zack Snyder's vision for the Justice League was any more coherent or important than what we got in 2017.
Yeah, it's the same story.
Right.
It's exactly the same story. I was expecting, not expecting, I kind of knew this was going to happen this way anyway, but I was, I guess, assuming that there would be some huge sweeping difference in the third act or whatever. But no, it's the same story with just new little bits thrown in here and there. I was actually surprised how much wasn't reshot for Whedon's version. I'd read, it's 80% reshot. I'm thinking more like 40, maybe 30. There's not that much difference. Mm-hmm. That it's just different in the way it's re-edited and trimmed and recut, I guess. And there's a couple action sequences that I liked way better in the Whedon cut.
Oh, okay.
Which we'll get to. But I guess, first of all, what's the book report on Justice League? Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, Justice is Gray. Did you hear about that? There's a new cut of it already. It's streaming on HBO Max.
There's a new cut of the cut?
Yeah, it was released on Thursday. A week later. It's called Zack Snyder's Justice League, Justice is Gray. And it's just a black and white cut. I think there might be a line or two different, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Well, for those of you listening, when Colby asked that, he was looking at me and my heart sank because I was like, how do I sum up this?
I'll sum it up for you. Yeah. It's the 2017 movie. It's just that, but longer. That's the story. Fuck me.
With a different color grade.
And with less humanity.
Oh, and they do add some part about, they take a plot line from Lord of the Rings where there was one ring to rule them all, except 3 mother boxes to rule them all. And they were divided between the races of elves and dwarves and men.
that was in the original, too. All those shots were in the original.
See, you did your homework better, though. Since I am not a professional film critic, folks, I don't sit down to watch movies that I think I'm not going to enjoy. And I've watched all of the DCEU movies because, as you and I have discussed before, we love these characters. It's exciting. It should be exciting to see them on the silver screen and brought to life. And, now, for lack of a better metaphor, it's kind of like that relationship that you go back to thinking that, oh, this time they mean it.
This time it's changed.
This time they've changed. And then afterwards you're just left with this dirty feeling like, no.
That's a pretty apt description of DC's slate. Okay, so from the very beginning, this thing just fucking drips pretension. It opens with a comment on the aspect ratio.
What do they say?
It said something like, this is presented in the 4:3 aspect ratio to preserve director Zack Snyder's vision, or something like that.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, they're doing that because they claim that shows you more of the picture. Mm-hmm. That's why we all have widescreen TVs now. You can't find a square TV anymore. They're all widescreen because when you watch a widescreen movie on it, you see more of the picture.
That is true.
Well, now he's going, we filmed it on IMAX, which is 4:3. That's because every time somebody films something on IMAX, they then crop it to fit the widescreen television, you know? Mm-hmm. So now he's like, I filmed it this way, so that's how you want to see it. Stop it. This isn't a goddamn aspect ratio arms race. It's just, now they're going to start filming on bigger than widescreen, or on bigger than IMAX, so we got to bump it out to the sides again. And pretty soon, we're going to have TVs that are the size of our goddamn wall because we keep, IMAX wasn't big enough. Now we got to move out again. Now we got to move up again. Now we got to move out again. And it's just so fucking frustrating. Don't do that. The widescreen aspect ratio is something that we've agreed upon for the last 60 years or whatever. Right. Just frame it that way. Mm-hmm. It's not that you're missing something if it's framed correctly, you know?
What a concept.
Technically speaking, you're all missing something because you didn't see what was happening outside of the frame, or you didn't see the crew walking around with their fucking coffee cups. And, there's not going to be an end to that if you keep claiming that this was the original intention and we got to bump out the aspect ratio. Just fucking pick an aspect ratio that fits every screen that everyone already has, and just have that be it. Make your vision fit that.
Right. And, please continue before I jump in.
Haven't I said enough? Jesus Christ. That was just profoundly pretentious to me.
Well, especially when you add on the fact, and we'll touch more on this as we get further in, he makes that grand announcement, and there are so many shots in this movie where what they spent, was it 70 billion?
No, not billion.
Million. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Good God. No.
They spent 70 million on this round of post-production.
Yes, excuse me, 70 million.
After already spending 300 million on the movie.
And there's still so many shots in this movie that look like shitty CGI. Yeah. I mean,
well, that's what happens when you want everything to be green screen and color graded to hell and back. Right. It's never going to look real, you know.
The part where Wonder Woman is relating the history of Darkseid to Bruce Wayne, that looks exactly like a video game. Yeah, and that's how it looked in the Whedon cut. The only difference is that they CGI'd Darkseid in there. Right.
In the original, that was all Steppenwolf, and now it's Darkseid. Mm-hmm. Well, and we'll get to that because I have a lot to say about that scene. But
Okay.
So first of all, the first 5 minutes of this movie are devoted to Superman's yell.
Oh, yes. Oh,
5 minutes long of like rah, 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 rah.
I have to add to that a little tangent here, but it does relate. I do this thing when I'm by myself, or when I'm watching a film, I turn on the subtitles. Because growing up watching movies with my dad served in Vietnam in artillery, and he was partially deaf from that experience. So movies and music were really hard for him, and he was a stubborn old donkey who refused to go in and get hearing aids. So when we watched movies as a family, we would always turn on the subtitles so that he could catch everything that was being said. And so when I'm by myself, I still do that. I just turn on the subtitles. It's a habit. And I feel like, if I may, I actually wrote down some of these subtitles because I feel like they sum up Zack Snyder's cut very well.
Wait, is this during the open? Like, where is this from? What part of the movie?
Oh, we're coming to the we're coming to the very beginning when Superman is dying and his screams awaken the mother box. This is what we have on the subtitles. Oscillating yelling echoes. Oscillating yelling continues. And it's that way for the first 3 to 5 minutes of the movie.
I mean, I looked it up. The yell happens for a little over 5 minutes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, dear God.
And it's just like people looking at the camera. That's another thing. Jesse Eisenberg said that he came back for reshoots. The only new scene I could think of him in this is him standing in that pool, like looking over his shoulder when he hears the yell. Like, and that's other than that, the only scene that he's in was in the original cut. So
yeah, that's about it. I hope he got paid handsomely for that.
I could give a fuck. I hate his take on Lex Luthor. I was just hoping he would this character would be quietly killed between movies, but no.
You get shanked in prison.
Yeah. But yeah, so the inciting incident in the movie is yell heard around the world. I absolutely can't understand why that was needed. Cyborg has a line in the Whedon cut where he says something about, when Superman died, the mother boxes sprang to life or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, well, there you go. That's all you need. That's right. A 2-second line instead of 5 minutes. That will be the goofiest thing I've heard in a long time. Forever. Jesus. And there's that's going back to that. There's just so much unneeded incidental footage in this movie.
Yes. Yes, this movie is not 4 hours long because Zack Snyder had something of quality to say about these characters and their story. It's 4 hours long because Zack Snyder loves his goddamn slow-mo.
Yeah. Well, even more than that. He loves the slow-mo and he loves just pointless diversions. Mm-hmm. This is a really good example of the need for a solid editor. I think probably in a couple years, we're going to see some pretty decent fan edits of this. Cut down into a reasonable amount of time with a focused storyline and not just endless meandering subplots and fetch quests. Yeah, and I mean, again, this isn't how you tell a story. This isn't a movie. HBO originally announced that they were going to cut this into a 4-hour miniseries.
Yes.
And that's why it has chapter breaks. But the chapter breaks are incidental. It's not like, and this first chunk is all about Batman forming the team. The second chunk is about them coming together. It's literally just an hour cut. Because that's not how the movie flows. It doesn't flow from one thing to the next. It's just constantly, everything's just thrown up onto the screen into some vague, by halfway into the movie, they're still trying to figure out what's going on and what the play is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Right. The idea that, and I've heard some people say that too, it's like, I had no idea, the runtime just flows by, and I was like, really? Yeah, really?
It doesn't. You can lie to yourself if you'd like, but 4 hours feels like 4 hours.
Right. Yeah, I posted on your Facebook status, I had to watch this in intervals. It took me about 4 days to watch it just because, again, I can only handle so much unintentional comedy, and I just had other shit to do. Sorry, folks.
I'm one of the brave few who sat through it all in one.
I salute you. I couldn't do it.
I crossed the Rubicon, came back changed. Much like Superman, came back joyless and evil.
You still have your mustache, though.
That's true. But then, again, with Superman dying and coming back joyless and evil, there's no change to his character there.
True.
He was already joyless and murder. No, never mind. I'll get to it later. So much unneeded incidental footage. The scene where Batman meets Aquaman.
Yes.
That's essentially unchanged. Like, that was, well, not essentially unchanged. So that was all Snyder footage. Because that scene is direct, like, it's the same in the Whedon cut. It's just shorter.
There was one thing that I actually liked about this that is not in the Whedon cut. That, again, I feel like...
Are you going to say the singing ladies?
Oh, we're going to get to that. We'll get to that. And again, it's what makes Snyder's filmmaking so frustrating for me sometimes, because he has these good, apt character moments and then get totally bogged down. But in the Snyder Cut, when Arthur pins Bruce Wayne up against the wall, Bruce Wayne actually takes out his billfold, and you don't see that in the Whedon Cut. I know that may seem like a really small, incidental thing, but I like the idea that, yes, that's Bruce Wayne's... I mean, one of the reasons he is what he is because he is a billionaire. He has all these resources and this money. It makes sense to me that he would, offer it to Arthur Curry. Like, if you're not going to help me because it's the right thing to do, then I will pay you.
He says he's going to pay him in the Whedon cut, too.
Yeah, but you don't see the...
they're push him down and take his money. Like, that's ridiculous to me that he would pull out a wad of cash in his hand. Like, that's, like, cartoonishly goofy. It's like, here's a money bag. What do you think about that? Like, that's not how billionaires do business. He'll write him a check, or he'll wire him $1 million. He's not just going to pull out like look at a stack of green I got here. Like Scrooge McDuck. That's so goofy.
I disagree, though, because obviously does Arthur Curry look like a guy who you can wire money to? He obviously does not want to be found.
If you live on this planet, you can get money wired to you. Especially if you're Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. But, well, okay, so we disagree on that one.
Well, one of the jokes that they cut out there is like, I heard you can talk to fish. That was definitively a Snyder line, too. It was in the original teaser trailer, well before Joss Whedon was even talked about for this. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's like he's taking any chance he can to cut out any levity, even the levity that he put into it.
Well, that is a good point.
Because you got to have more time for wailing women.
Oh, see, if I may, that was another subtitle I found that appears often. Ancient lamentation swells, soft ancient lamentation. Whenever fucking Diane, excuse me, I almost called her Barbara. Diana appears on the screen.
Oh yeah,
you get that.
So that one of my, I'm gonna go into the comments real quick. One of my friends, D, commented on this saying that. She didn't like she said Wonder Woman's screaming chant song is very annoying. And my comment was it reminds me so much of the like quote Middle Eastern music that plays on Arrested Development. The show Arrested Development. There's like a musical cue that sounds exactly like that.
Really?
And every time it would come up in this movie, I would just start laughing because it reminded me of Arrested Development.
That's a nice... See, again, that unintentional comedy where you're just like, I know that wasn't intentional, but thank you.
That lack of self-awareness. Like, the lack of a pop culture awareness. Like, I'm going to put in this like, wailing sound and Diana soundtrack and not connecting it to something outside of this weird little myopic vision, you know?
Right. And on that note, would you like to talk about the Singing Villagers?
So there was Singing Villagers and it took fucking forever. Like, that's it.
Well, and again...
For some reason, the movie grinds to a halt so that these 4 or 5 women can sing a chanting song to Aquaman while he's gone.
Which I will argue, which, again, could have been another good character moment, because, again, obviously Arthur Curry, he wants Aquaman, he wants nothing to do with ruling Atlantis. He doesn't want anything to do with the Atlanteans. He's found this small corner of the world where he feels accepted and appreciated. He obviously has an affinity for these people who have an affinity for him. And that would have been fine if there was maybe like, I don't know, just a few seconds of these women singing to say farewell to him as he goes into the ocean. But instead, we get this long-ass song where Snyder pauses to show us this woman picking up Aquaman's sweater,
like smelling it,
inhaling his fishy musk, and then it gets better. Like, this is where I literally, the first time in the movie, I just laughed out loud. Like, she takes a deep breath, which makes her sing louder. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, again, you take what could have been a nice little moment and you just push it right over into hilarity.
Around that point, I wrote this note. 20 minutes in, this feels like what a child thinks a serious movie should be.
Yeah.
So much like chest inflating, you know, like it feels like an animal that's trying to appear more threatening to someone else. Puff up the chin, like, come on, bro, come at me.
It's a puffer fish.
Because this is not a serious movie.
No.
But it wants you so hard to think that it is.
It really does. And I was thinking about that coming down here.
I just looked at one of my other notes. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, on that subject of how, like, going into this movie, that's one of the things I told myself is, like, these are my expectations for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like, I expect it to be overly boring. I expect it, of course, at 4 hours to be overly long. And I expect it to take itself so totally seriously.
It's a serious movie for serious people.
It is, my God. And here's the thing. It's like, I think melodrama gets a bad rap as melodrama. Like, oh, it's so heightened and exaggerated. Melodrama in itself isn't bad. There's a lot of films, like Star Wars is melodramatic, the original Star Wars. Great example of that is like Powell and Pressburger, movies like The Red Shoes and Black Narcissus. They are melodramatic. But the difference between them as great filmmakers and Zack Snyder is that it seems like Zack Snyder doesn't want to embrace the melodrama. He's not making movies from a place of like, yeah, this is, these are heightened emotions. This is a lot of feelings flying around, but it's really serious shit, and you need to take this shit seriously.
It's always like, this is real. This is real life. Like, no, it's fucking not. I hate whenever people are like, well, you know, like somebody was commenting on the Flash's introductory scene. I'm like, well, you know, like in reality, if you were to move that fast, then when you fucking, like, shut up. It's the fucking Flash. Right. It's a goddamn kid's character. Like, you don't need that. If you're that fixated on reality when you're watching a guy run light speed, then your idea of suspension of disbelief is fucked beyond belief. Because like that's the whole point of watching people do spectacular things. All the way back to fucking Beowulf, you know? Like where people huddled around the Exeter book being like, well, you know, in reality, people can't breathe underwater. That's bullshit.
That's a bad faith criticism. Yeah.
And it's just like, that's not what this is about. Like, to me, reality is about character interactions, like what the core of a character is, and that character doing things that make sense for them. Right. If the character is like, quote, a real person, I don't give a shit what the craziness around them is. You can have them breathe in space as long as it feels like it's something that character should be doing.
Exactly. you can have these moments of heightened emotion or, you know, drama. Like, okay, a good comic book example of that is Tim Burton's Batman. Yeah. That is full of drama. It's full of what could be considered cheesy moments, but it works within the world that Tim Burton has created. Like you alluded to, Zack Snyder is just so obsessed with being like, no, this works in all worlds. And it's all encompassing of, you know, of not just the fantasy world in which these superheroes inhabit. Like, this, you can relate to this, you know? And it's like, well, that shouldn't always be the first priority. And it shouldn't always, it's just clumsily executed too.
Exactly. So we talked about Batman meeting Aquaman. The next person to be introduced is Wonder Woman. So this is the scene that I think is about 100 times better in the Whedon cut. Mm-hmm. The action scene is basically the same, but in the Whedon cut, it flows better. It's quicker. It's not this long, drawn-out, like 15-minute long action scene. And Wonder Woman just fucking murders a bunch of poorly CGI'd guys. Like, she grabs them and throws them against the wall, and every time somebody hits the wall, there's an impact crater and a spray of blood. Right. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And then she fucking vaporizes the bad guy in the end. and he explodes, and debris and glass showers on the poor police officers on the ground, and then his hat like floats down comically. Like, dude, she just killed a bunch of people in front of children.
Right, and it totally defeats the purpose of her having to, again in slow-mo, throw the bomb up in the air and hang there for like a fucking 60-second shot, before she falls back to Earth and, just basically blows out the side of a building.
Yeah. all of that is executed way better in the Whedon cut, particularly the way she dispatches the bad guy in the end. He says something to her, I can't remember, and she does a witty rejoinder, and then she slaps her bracelets together, and the cut in the Whedon cut is when the bracelets hit.
Right.
And that's it. So you don't, you assume that she apprehended him.
Right. Well, and this might seem like a small nitpick, but in that scene too, in the Snyder version, he goes out of his way to show us this balletic bullet blocking that she does with one guy. Now, I can understand if there's like 5 guys shooting at these kids and she had to, dodge in front of them to block the bullets. But this is like one guy. Wonder Woman can just sidle right up to him and knock him in the face and he's down.
That's all in the Whedon cut too.
Just with the one guy?
Yep. That's all in the Whedon cut too. And that bugged the shit out of me in both versions because she's basically the Flash now.
Right.
Like, she's running as fast as so what as if the Flash wasn't useless enough in this. Now both Superman and Wonder Woman can move as fast as him. So why is he even on the stupid team?
Poor guy. Poor Flash. I would like to segue now that we're talking about Wonder Woman, and you and I were discussing this before. I get that the cool thing now is to rip on Joss Whedon because Joss, excuse me, whatever his name is. He's been canceled, it doesn't matter. I get that the cool thing now is to rip on Joss Whedon because, surprise, surprise, we found out that another powerful male director is actually an asshole behind the scenes. It is not pleasant to work with. But I see so many people just nitpicking the 2017 version apart as if it wasn't bad already over his portrayal of women. And like you and I talked about before, there's several lingering shots of Wonder Woman's body in the 2017 film that I honestly did not notice in the Snyder Cut. You said you noticed them in the Snyder Cut.
Well, and again, it's people have been talking a lot about that in both of them, really. But I especially like in some of the scenes where it's framed that she's closer to the camera. Mm-hmm. And like there's been a couple people commenting on the fact that like there's scenes where her butt is like framed in camera. And it's one of like I can't tell if that's supposed to be leering or if that's just because she's standing right there. And like I've always had a problem with that criticism of the Whedon version because it's just like there's nothing inherently sexual about that. She's standing right there. It's like the camera's zooming in on her butt or something. And those same shots are in this version too.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can see that, but I will, I hate to say this, but I might have to go back and watch the Snyder Cut again because you were talking about the part in the movie where she welcomes Bruce Wayne on the tarmac. Like, I remember a very specific shot in the Whedon version where you were looking at Bruce Wayne, like, right from her ass. Like, there's Gal Gadot's nice ass, and it's like, oh, by the way, here's Bruce Wayne, too. Where in the Snyder Cut, he just films it over her shoulder.
There's definitely a shot where her butt's there.
Probably is.
Because I remember debating my friend Ethan about that when the first version came out. It was like, just because her butt's on camera doesn't inherently mean it's being sexualized.
But yeah, how come we never see, like, why don't we get a shot of Ben Affleck's ass while he talks to, Arthur Curry? Ben Affleck has a nice ass.
I think there is one, at least in the Whedon cut. There's a whole scene where she's watching him change.
True.
I wasn't in this one.
We're getting a little lost in the weeds here. But the point being, and then of course there's the joke that, as you were saying, Joss Whedon has used a bunch in his other stuff where, women's bodies, women's boobs are like used as yuck, like in his version, Flash falls on Wonder Woman's boobs and like her boobs save his head from a concussion.
That's a joke he used in Age of Ultron also. Which is, I don't know, it's not, again, I don't necessarily think there's anything like sexual about that. It's just one of those juvenile fucking jokes about the like, oh, he accidentally touched your boobs and he didn't mean to.
Right. I don't think that's inherently as evil as a lot of people are trying to make that out now. Like, look at how sexist Joss Whedon is to women.
It's just a dumb joke.
It is a dumb joke.
It doesn't land particularly well in any, and it's a joke that's been done a million times before too.
And on that note, like in Snyder's version, like ladies, I have to ask, and I've heard the arguments, I still don't get it, about what about Zack Snyder's portrayal of women in this movie is, oh my god, so groundbreaking and gives them so much more agency, and oh wow, like there's like a couple lines that Snyder changed, like the interaction with the bad guy in the bank or the school or wherever they're at.
Scene?
Yeah. And then also this was the silliest one. Like someone was giving pats on the back to Snyder for changing her first interaction with Steppenwolf, where she goes to fight him, and he's like, "This one's mine." And in Whedon's version, she says, like, "You overestimate yourself." And then boom, they're in a fight. And their argument was like, "Oh, that it reduces Wonder Woman's agency and her power as a demigod." Wherein the Snyder version, we get this, like, it's not a horrible line, but it's a really, vanilla line where, Steppenwolf says, "Well, this one's mine." And she's like, "I belong to no one." It's like, okay, that's Woman of the Year line, apparently.
Well, he's the fucking bad guy. He should be demeaning them. Oh, like,
right.
Who cares? Who cares if he's fucking sexist? He's the bad guy.
Right.
Christ.
His whole point is to come and conquer and kill.
Yeah. And that line, like, "I belong to no man," it feels like a guy saying, like, this is what a strong woman would say. Right. Oh. Like, no, she wouldn't fucking care what he thinks, man. She's the hero. He's the like she's a demigod, although technically he's a god, so he's better than her.
He's more powerful than her.
But I mean, she wouldn't fucking give a shit. She would just attack him.
Right. Which in the Whedon version, I think they did better.
Another in that same scene, okay, hold on, we gotta go back. We're running out of time. We gotta stick to the main point. So okay. When Steppenwolf arrives on Themyscira, first of all, that entire scene is so horribly edited to me. It starts in the fucking lair of the Amazons, and then goes out into the field, exactly like the Whedon cut. The only difference is there's a big 2-minute bit in the middle where the Amazons base falls into the ocean, and Paula just stops to watch and stare at the ocean, completely destroying the sense of pace that the fight scene had. Don't do that. I completely understand why that was trimmed. And then the rest basically goes the same as the Whedon cut, except with more CGI blood added in.
Right.
Every axe hit is accompanied by a spray of gore now. Mm-hmm. Because you wouldn't want kids to watch a Justice League movie.
No. Except you do, because I know, going back a little bit, we have that really eye-rolling, saccharine part where
she talks to the kid?
Yeah. You can be whatever you want to be. It's like, yeah, that's what I want in my R-rated superhero movie.
Somebody posted online that, the kids, can I be like you? Or something like that. Yeah. And then Wonder Woman's response is, no, I'm a god.
Right? Because in our R-rated film where they had to add blood splatters when people get hit with axes, we have to have that part where all the little girls in the audience can be like, "Thank you, Wonder Woman."
Yeah. So Steppenwolf arrives. The original version of his was criticized for being a stupid-looking CGI blob. Stupid-looking gray CGI blob. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see that now he's a different stupid-looking gray CGI blob. This is a different look, but nothing about it is an improvement to me.
No.
It still looks dumb. His face looks like fucking Angry Cat.
Oh my god, it does.
It's he's just got that stupid frown the entire time. I mean,
oh.
His face his face is one of those so ugly it's cute kind of animals, that's not a good look for your world-ending villain.
You want to reach out and boop him on the nose?
Yeah, exactly. It's just so fucking dumb. And now his voice is modulated so badly that you can barely tell it's Kieran Hines playing the role.
Which is a shame.
Yeah. Like, why is that? Why are people thinking that's better? Like, that's not better. It's not better to not understand your actor.
Right. Right. That was the thing he had going for him, is he was played by Ciarán Hinds.
Yeah. And again, like, I don't like the original design of the character, but I like his voice better. And at least his face had some menace to it.
Right.
There's got to be a way to redesign this character to make him look good. Or maybe just not use such a stupid fucking character. Like, why is Steppenwolf the character that you hang this franchise on? And not Darkseid? Why didn't you just use Darkseid?
Exactly. Like, and that's another thing I hear people praising is that, Steppenwolf has more depth now. He's just a guy that wants to go home. Who gives a shit? What does that add to the movie?
Here's another one. This is like a video essay on how overindulgent editing ruins tone and pace.
Oh, please elaborate.
That's all I wrote. No, it's just that Amazon scene. That Amazon fight is a perfect example of how to completely kill the pace of a fight scene because you want it to be longer. Like, it's like a 20-minute scene that should have been 5.
Yeah.
Which, again, the Whedon cut, for all of the issues with the Whedon cut, at least the fight scenes were edited in a concise manner.
Exactly.
And if this version had been edited concisely down to 2 to 2.5 hours, it would have been light years better than both. But it's not.
It drags on and on and on.
After that scene, there's the huge subplot about Cyborg's dad.
Yes.
And this scene is in both versions, and I'm always like, why is this in here? It's a janitor mopping a grated floor. Like, why?
And very lackluster, too.
But, like, you don't mop grating. That's why it's graded. So you don't have to. You fucking... Like, why? Has Zack Snyder never held a mop in his life or understand how friction on floors work? Like, that's...
I don't think he does. No.
It's just such a weird touch. And both versions have a close-up of... So that you know it's graded. And with this wet mop slopping across it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you were able to touch a third of the surface of that fucking... Whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm moving on. And then one little addition that I thought was weird. Every time... what's his name? Not Darkseid, because he's a better villain. Every time Steppenwolf interrogates somebody, he puts that, like, purple starfish on their face.
Right.
And then it somehow makes a little CGI display of what they're thinking, maybe? I don't know. That's never elaborated on or talked to, but that reminded me of Starro. Made me think that was like a reference to Starro.
Oh, remind me what...
Starro's the giant star conqueror.
Oh,
at the end of the Suicide Squad
That's
trailer.
right. That's right.
But Starro has these little spores that get on people's faces and attach just like that,
right,
and control them. So when he first pulled that out, I was like, holy shit, they're doing Starro, but it's like technological, but it's never brought up again.
Well, and leading up to that scene too, where he's got that Atlantean by the throat, and he's like, "Tell me," and he's like, "I'll never," and then he like throws him against a rock so he can get that blood splatter.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have the rock thrown blood splatter.
And then he just puts the little suckerfish thing on his face anyway.
Yeah,
it's like you don't need to ask people questions.
Yeah. It's got a lot more depth in this one. Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
He likes to act or ask questions.
This
is another note. This is almost the exact same movie.
It really is.
Everything is just longer and given more artificial weight.
Exactly. I wish I could remember the name of the reviewer, but they write for, what is it, ebertroper.com.
Oh, yeah.
And...
They gave it like a 4-star review.
Well, this... I don't think they did, though.
RogerEbert.com gave it a really good review.
Well, maybe I've got the media site wrong, but this person said, and I'm just summarizing here, they put it beautifully. They're like, instead of getting the incoherent, choppy, boring version of the Justice League, we get the uniformly boring version of Justice League.
Yeah. I think I saw that one too. Yeah, that totally makes sense. One thing I put, at 45 minutes, at the 45-minute mark is when we get our first wholly new scene. And it's needless exposition.
Which one was the wholly news?
I don't remember. I think it's maybe Cyborg's dad.
Oh, okay.
So Cyborg's dad, like, everyone has been falling over themselves to compliment Cyborg in this movie because he gets more to do. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's fine, but it's not interesting. It's his origin, basically.
Right.
And, like, I don't give a shit about him going into the internet and watching a bull and a bear fight. and moving up the stalks, whoop, whoop, like a slider bar. God, that was so dumb. But one of the things that really bugged me about that, though, is, yeah, he gets more screen time. You get to see his origin. Great, whatever. Maybe some of that should have been put in the Whedon cut. But it also takes away all of Cyborg's individual power.
Right.
In the original movie, it's him learning this on his own and navigating his own power set and his own world. Like this new world that he's been thrust into. You don't see much of it, but it's implied that he's doing all that. Like when his dad comes and talks to him in the Whedon cut, and he's like, "Do you know I could fly? I couldn't do that yesterday." And he levitates off the ground. Well, in this version, there's a huge, long montage of him learning his powers, but it's all at his dad's insistence.
Right.
It's his dad being like, "You can do this because I say you can." So he no longer has any power. It's all his dad giving him permission to be powerful.
Well, and it totally takes away his complexity as a person, too, because it's like, okay, this horrible thing happened, this horrible tragedy happened to your family. Your wife is dead. Your son almost died, and his body was broken. So you gave him all this tremendous power because you felt guilty?
Yeah.
And that's how you explain it? Like you said, he doesn't have to discover it for himself. It's just like, here's like the power to, break into any security system and the stock market. Here you go.
And how does his dad know that?
Right.
How come Cyborg doesn't know that on his own? He's the one who's in this world. How come his dad on a fucking voice record, like a 1980s cassette player is the one being like, "Oh, and you can do this and you can do that." Like, fuck you, you don't know. He's the one who's living it. And again, like, people will not shut up about how great Cyborg's story is in this movie, but all I see is more of him. I don't see anything more interesting.
Right.
And if you're not going to make his story interesting, then it shouldn't be in there.
Exactly. Well, and that's, again, so frustrating with what Snyder does. Honestly, if the slow-mo was going to be used for anything, I would say use it for Victor's football scene.
Yeah.
Because slow-mo is something that is utilized in sports anyway.
Also, on that, there's my note. Cyborg's flashback takes forever. Also, he fumbles at the end of the football game. He drops the ball when he lands in the end zone. That's not a win. He lost.
That is not a touchdown. But if we hadn't already gotten, 45 minutes of just slow-mo unto itself.
There was a lot of slow-mo in that football game scene, though, to be fair.
But what I mean is, though, it would have had more emotional impact if Snyder didn't make...
if there wasn't slow-mo every other
yes.
scene. My only other note about Cyborg's origin is that it was done better in Doom Patrol.
Yes, it was.
Because it was. But the best take on Cyborg's origin in expanded media is Young Justice.
I haven't read that yet.
It's a TV show.
Oh, I haven't seen that. No wonder.
So the whole series is on HBO Go. I'd highly suggest watching it. But the third season gets really deep in Cyborg and shows his origin, and it's fucking it's like unflinching in how it shows his origin. Like, it shows him getting blown apart, for God's sake, on a kids show. And it's really intense and really well done, and really digs into the emotion of the character in a way that's way better than this. So I would suggest I would suggest everyone watch Young Justice. Start with the first episode and get all the way to the third season.
Okay. I think why people like this scene in the Snyder Cut so much is because, help me with the actor's name that plays...
Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher is good, but the actor who plays his dad,
Joe Morton.
Joe Morton. Yes.
Miles Dyson.
Miles Dyson, yes. He's kind of like Sidney Poitier in that he... Poitier. Excuse me. Poitier.
It's French.
Thank you. He brings this air of integrity to everything he does.
Yeah.
And he's a good actor. Like a lot of the actors in this film are. So when he's selling a moment, you want to buy it because he's selling it very well. But like you said, when you look at all the trappings around that, you're like, this is a bunch of sound and fury signifying nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like everything, it's just more. It's not more good stuff. It's just more...
Oh, may I interrupt you real quick? I just want to ask if you have this exact same reaction. When the two mother boxes fuse together so that Steppenwolf can talk to, what's Darkseid's lackey's name? Desaad, thank you. Or the first time when Darkseid pops up himself so that Steppenwolf can talk to him, did you not immediately hear Tim Curry's voice singing Toxic Love from Ferngully?
No, I haven't seen Sprinkless since I'm a kid, so I don't.
I immediately was like, yep, there it is, toxic love.
I'm sure if you're listening and you got the toxic love moment, then feel free to write in.
Absolutely. Or go find it on YouTube and listen to it. It blends really well.
I fucking hated those scenes, though, like the constant check-ins. Hey, just so you know, my guys are looking for those boxes. Oh, okay, you better find those boxes. Hey, you assholes, go out there and find those boxes. There's like 3 of those in this movie. Like, fucking Christ.
You should have just asked him, like, show me a picture of what you made for breakfast this morning. Going back to your original linear note.
Yeah. Here's going the Cyborg thing. How does Cyborg's dad know any of the shit he tells him? We already asked that. So it says, in the original cut, it's all about Cyborg discovering his power for himself. Now it's just his dad saying, "You're special!" without any reason for knowing it.
Right. And again, giving him access to all this tremendous power just because he feels guilty that he didn't show up to a football game.
The needle drops are fucking awful. So the song that plays when Aquaman's walking into the ocean is such a laughable piece of juxtaposition. Like, the only thing that would have made it worse is if they'd done that Donovan Atlantis song.
That might have made it better in some respects.
Way down along the ocean. But like in the original version, it's a White Stripes song that plays during that, and it's like a badass song, and it fits really well. Mm-hmm. And I think that was also a song that was in one of the first teaser trailers for this. So again, it predates Joss Whedon.
Right. And if you notice too, like everyone, I think pretty much everyone, I think Wonder Woman just got your basic ancient lamentation wailing. But like
that, and that combined with a Junkie XL, like right. God damn it! Even the music has tonal whiplash in this fucking movie.
It does. But like everybody gets like Aquaman, Flash, Lois Lane. They all get these sad lamentation songs with lots of slow mo.
Yeah. So you mentioned Flash's sad lamentation song. Does Iris have any fucking lines in this movie? It was such a big deal that Iris West. So Ray Fisher accused Joss Whedon of being a racist for cutting Iris West out of the movie.
That's right.
Because he said that it was a black actor that got cut out. Like, or it could be that scene doesn't have any fucking impact on this movie. Features a character with 0 dialogue that's only there to be saved by the hero. Isn't even really a character. Right. And they don't give her a name, for fuck's sake. She starts her car, gets in a wreck because she's ogling a guy, and then he saves her. The end.
Right.
That's like 10 minutes.
and again, more slow-mo that for the Flash should be cooler.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I did like about the Whedon version, is that when we see that slow-mo for the first time, it's when Bruce Wayne throws the Batarang at him and you see time stop.
Exactly.
But because we've already had all this fucking slow-mo...
Yeah, it completely robs that scene of any weight it should have.
Right.
And so in that Flash scene, first of all, the overly CGI'd seed from the hamburger bun, that the camera's like, what is going on here?
And he pauses to take a hot dog from the air.
That's what I was going to say, too. When he saves Iris, he has more emotion and desire in his eyes when he sees that hot dog than he does when he sees her. Like, hot dog.
I'm going to want this for later.
And I hated Flash in the original cut because he's just a goofus who shouldn't be in this story. Like, that's not a character you should be relying on. Right. And in this, it cranks it up to 11 when he's introduced. Like, resume, what's that? Man, I just want to walk dogs. Here's my folded up piece of shit paper that I tore on. Resume, isn't that French? I don't know. I'm going to feed your dogs hot dogs. I'm an idiot. It's just, good God.
It's basically... he's basically the Tom Holland of he's the Spider-Man. He's the young guy who's supposed to come in and be funny and heartwarming. But again, Marvel does it much better.
they make a character instead of a joke.
Right.
It's like you can't put a red costume on a joke and think that it's going to be an interesting character. It's just like it's one note over and over.
Here.
Okay, here's a quote that I had going back to Cyborg. Wonder Woman saying, "I need your help. The world does." And Cyborg, "Fuck the world." Cyborg, star of children's Teen Titans Go.
Fuck the world.
That's, again, an R-rated Justice League movie.
Well, yeah, what's the point? What's the, yeah, why?
So we had 3 fucks in it. One at the beginning, one of the bad guys holding a gun on children when Wonder Woman saves the day. Then there's Cyborg's fuck, and then Batman says fuck at the end. I'm definitely gonna fucking kill you. Batman! Children's entertainer.
Which we will get to that part, that the nightmare.
Yeah. We're already in an hour, dude. We gotta get through this, unless we want to do this as a 2-parter.
Oh, we certainly could.
Or we could just do a 4-hour Justice League cut.
Well, I have a feeling if you're still listening, then perhaps you have your own misgivings about this movie. Diehard fans are going to think that we're wrong, and that we're just haters, so they probably stopped listening, 5 minutes in. Or they probably don't listen at all, because if you've heard prior episodes where we discussed this movie, you can tell that we weren't a fan of Snyder's vision to begin with.
I'm going to be a responsible editor and cut us off right now. And then we'll come back and do the rest.
Okay.
We'll do 2 episodes on the goddamn Snyder Cut.
Because there really is more, people. It's like...
Yeah, there's more to say. There's more bullshit. So, okay. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Vertigo Voices, Instagram Vertigo Voices, or email us at the address vertigovoices@gmail.com. I promise I will get into people's comments next time, because, again, there's still a lot to say. So, unlike the Snyder Cut, we're going to cut this into 2 episodes. Have this be a proper mini-series.
Because we know that you have things to do with your day.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, well, we'll see you next week. Actually, next week, I'm going to be in Hawaii. How are we going to record this if I'm going to be in Hawaii?
Who knows?
Stay tuned and find out. So you gotta have a hook there to get him back for the next episode.
Well done. Yes.
I'm smart.
You are.